Steenkamp's sentencing hearing in the Specialised Commercial Crimes Court has been postponed to the 8th of December. She's been found guilty on more than 300 charges of fraud for claiming erroneous tax refunds from SARS between 2004 and 2016. In court, she's claimed her violent spouse had urged her to defraud her employers. That was in an earlier hearing. Our reporter, Hloni Mtimkulu, was in court today. She's back now. She'll tell us exactly what happened. Bungane, welcome back. Very interesting case. There's a minimum sentence that's attached to this type of crime. Just tell us what happened in court. How is the defense trying to present a case to mitigate a heavier sentence? And by the way, what is the minimum sentence?
Yeah, so Britain, the minimum sentence is 15 years, and this is for each count over a certain amount of money, which I think today they said was 500,000 rand. And there are
500 million?
500,000 rand.
The minimum?
Yes, the minimum.
That's a threshold for 15 years?
Yes. For
anything above 500,000 rand, it's 15 years. Got you.
But this is for each count. So she has been found guilty of 336 counts of fraud. 211 of those meet this prescribed minimum. So her lawyer today, Advocate Roots, was saying, when you consider everything to the magistrate, please be lenient. Consider a sentence that won't break her. She's unemployed. She's a mother of two. All her exploits, we've been talking about her lavish living, her shopping sprees, her gambling, they've all amounted to nothing because here she is now unemployed and she's facing this. So Advocate Roots was saying, if it is at all possible, can they run concurrently? So it's not 15 times 211, which he calculated. I didn't, and it was going to be around 3,000 years, he was saying. So he was saying, if you can consider that. But he was presenting a case of, again, the prison system in South Africa, that it violates people's human rights. It violates their constitutional rights as well. So do you really want someone to be in that situation? You know, again, that she is a first-time offender. He was talking about the overcrowding in prison systems, that the money that would be spent imprisoning her, he was comparing it with how much it costs to educate a child. And he was saying that the cost to educate a child is about a quarter of the cost it takes to imprison someone. So he was giving all these mitigating factors to say, okay, I understand this has happened. She knows that she is going to prison. The issue is just for how long, whether it will be this 15 years. He asked for a lesser sentence, but, you know, prison is definitely happening. But then let's hear from Advocate Roots on his arguments for a more lenient sentence.
Increasingly, observers express their concern that conditions in South African prisons are already violating prisoners' rights to an unjustifiable extent. And then he refers to the authority and the relevant reports, I'm sure which your worship can take judicial notice of. The question is how much longer our courts can continue ignoring this situation. Although the sentencing courts do not accept conditions existing in prisons as a factor when determining an appropriate sentence, it would be unacceptable for our courts to sentence a person to imprisonment in the full knowledge that the conditions of incarceration are unconstitutional.
Well, Bungane, that's the defense, of course, appealing for leniency on behalf of the client, the Hildegard Steenkamp, who stands accused of the fraud. The state, though, is opposed to a lenient sentence. I guess they must have made their case that, no, the minimum 15 years, I mean, we want a minimum 15 years. So
they were actually saying that we want a minimum of 25 years, Britain, and they were saying that because each of the 211 is a 15-year sentence, so the court must consider something more than that. They said even that the court must consider that some of the amounts were much more than the 500,000. So there was the 1 million million, there were transactions of 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, and even up to December 2016 when the last of the transactions were done, those were 6 million rand. And the interesting thing was, per transaction that is, and the interesting thing is that, you know, we heard in August that she was saying that her husband made her do these things. He had had issues with his business and needed an out, and they had found this out, and he had basically compelled her to do this. But the court said, your husband died in the middle of December 2016, and yet even after that, there were at least 2 transactions of 6 million rand that were that happened. So it's not as if, you know, if he had forced you, why is it that when he died, you didn't stop these transactions and you still continued? And that she was arrested in 2017, but only pled guilty 5 years later. So they were saying there's no remorse here. She's not contrite in all of this, and so she should get not just a minimum 15 years, but given the scale and the extent of everything, that she should get more than that. And let's hear from Advocate Shabalala for the state.
I respectfully submit that the accused is not remorseful at all. Many accused persons might well regret their conduct, but that does not, without more, translate to genuine remorse. Whether the offender is sincerely remorseful or simply feeling sorry for having been caught is a factual question. The strength of the case against the accused made her plead guilty to their charges. It is respectfully submitted that the accused did not show genuine contrition. It is very clear that she was motivated by greed. As an accountant, the accused owed a duty of good faith to her former employer and the public at large, under the heading the interests of the community. In Michael versus S. Sutra, said, at paragraph 6, the court held, in whatever form theft remains a serious nature, society expects courts to deal with offenders of such crimes sternly and decisively. In the interest of the community, Specialized Commercial Crimes Court has been established to deal with the stage of white-collar crime. Close quote.
As prosecutor there in the case of Hildegard Steenkamp, ending that update from court from